Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we have the brand new Tier 8 Premium German battleship, the Brandenburg, import to review for you guys today. As always, massive shout out to the Patreon supporters. I am not a CC. I get no support from Wargaming. I do not receive any ships to test or review early. So all of the ship reviews you see on this channel are funded by ad revenue from the channel and the generous donation of these Patreons. So again, thanks to you guys on screen for making these reviews possible. So the Brandenburg, what is this ship? TLDR, this is an Odin with a 4th turret and a slightly different secondary configuration and some changes to her armor. There's more changes than that, but that is the long story short version of it. Now, of course, as always, I do really like the look of this ship. I really love the look of the Odin, and this is essentially a chunkier Odin pretty much. It's a very sleek looking ship, especially from the bow on. I really like the way that it looks. And I really like this camouflage on her hull. Art department absolutely hitting it out of the park here. As always, it's, their standard, it seems, for these days. Alright, so the ship herself. Now, as you guys can see, I have played this ship on stream, but I'm recording this right after, so it's still first impressions. So, let's take a look at her stats. I'll show you her armor, her stats and such. We'll look at her consumables, and then we will take her into battle, and I'll meet you guys there with a voiceover review. So let's go ahead and take a look at her. So from the front, very similar to Odin, you get a 32mm bow, a massive 60mm icebreaker bow there as well. So that means this is just a giant middle finger to every large caliber gun in the game. Side armor is 350mm upper, 350mm lower torpedo belt, and upper belt is 145. Come around back, this is where things start to change. So bow is 32 with the bow. Stern is 32 with no wrap around stern back here. The Odin has first off, a much slimmer stern, as you can see. And, it's actually got better side armor than the Odin. Wow. So 45 there, and on the 145 on the Brandenburg. Alright, so it's got better side armor, which makes sense considering the gun layout of the ship. But the stern armor is where she's really lacking. So Odin's has a 90mm stern. So this right here is a giant middle finger to everything, which means you can kite for days in this ship thanks to this 90mm strip. They have to somehow hit this right here to overmatch your stern armor. But anyway, back to the Brandenburg. So, stern deck is 32, mid deck is 50, center deck is 80, so that's very nice. Then 50 again in the front, and 32 on the bow deck. Citadel is slightly below the waterline, and of course you've got the good old German turtleback. I do believe the Citadel is pretty much the same as the Odin, again just bigger because the ship is bigger. Alright, so her survivability, she has 58,800 hit points, which is more than Odin but still on the lower side of most other tier 8 battleships. Most tier 8 battleships sit around 62-ish thousand HP, most. 20-30% torpedo damage reduction. Poor torpedo damage reduction as par for the course for the Germans. Main battery guns. Same guns as the Odin, but you get 3 more of them. And you get a 26.5 second base reload time, with a 27% chance for fires to be started per shell with her HE, 76mm of HE pin. Both the AP and HE come out the barrels at 865 meters a second, and the AP shells have a maximum damage of 9,400. And the turrets rotate in 30 seconds, maximum dispersion of 245 meters. Now, the secondaries, other big change from the Odin. All of Odin's secondaries can pin 32 because all of Odin's secondaries are at least 128mm guns. It's not the case on the Brandenburg. Now you do get more. You get 20 of these 105mm guns, which is 8 more guns than the Odin gets. Odin only has 12 128s for the smaller, quote-unquote, caliber guns for secondary suite. So they have a 3.4 second base reload time, 5% chance starting a fire, 7.6 kilometer base range, and 900 meters second velocity with a maximum HE shell damage of 1200. The 150s, you get 6 of these, 6 turrets of these, 12 guns in total. So 7.5 second reload time, 8% chance starting a fire, 1700 maximum HE shell damage, 38 millimeters of pin, and a 7.6 kilometer base range. So right off the bat, the Odin has the advantage in the secondary department for one category, which is pins. Because again, she has all 128s at least, which means she can cross the 32 millimeter threshold. But the Brandenburg has more, but they're smaller, so they can make up the damage in fires if they're getting lucky and starting lots of fires. And of course, with 20 of them, they're going to be getting pretty lucky quite often. So we'll talk more about that in the review section. Alright, torpedoes. She has, well, Odin's torpedoes, which is the Tirpitz' torpedoes, but unlike the Odin, they are mounted amidships, so you get slightly better torpedo angles there. Again, 6 kilometer torps, 13,700 maximum damage, 64 knot top speed, standard German BB torps. She does get an air strike, which is nice. AA on the ship, she has her AA rating of 77. Maneuverability, she has a maximum speed of 32.5 knots and a 15.7 second rudder shift time, and an 820 meter turning circle radius. Concealment, her base concealment is 15.7 kilometers. So with her 18.5 kilometer range, that's about 2 kilometers and change of cushion. For her consumables, she gets choice of fighter or spotter. She gets 4 heals base and damage con. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw a commander and module build on this ship. I'll meet you guys right back here after that. Alright, she has been kitted out, boys. I'm running through my build real quick. No surprise here, we've gone for a full secondary build. So, auxiliary armaments mod 1 to keep those secondary guns in the fight. Damage con, because fires suck. Secondary battery mod 1, that gets our secondaries out a little bit more and gives us a 20% boost to the reload time and the range. I'm sorry, 20% boost to the dispersion and the range. Damage con 2, because fires suck. And concealment. And I personally run the fighter because CVs. You can of course run the spotter if you want, but I don't think that's very useful. Again, we'll get to that in the review section. Alright, commander, of course I got Lucians on here with my secondary build. So I went with preventive maintenance to keep our main battery turrets in the fight. MLG turrets to get our turrets swinging faster. These are pretty useful when you get into a close range situation because obviously every second counts there, and the faster your main battery turrets move, the faster you get your guns on target. Long range secondary battery shells to get our secondaries out another 20%. Of course, manual secondary battery aiming to get that increased accuracy after 45 seconds of firing. Adrenaline rush, of course. Now, you could take close quarters combat, or you could take concealment, or you could take fire prevention. This just comes down to your choice. I'd take close quarters combat because it increases the DPM of our main battery guns. And again, when you're in a brawling situation, the faster your main battery guns can reload, the faster you can sink your enemy. I just like it. It's kind of a all-in build into maximizing the DPM of this ship. Of course, again, you could take concealment or fire prevention if you want. And then, of course, emergency repair expert. So now, the secondary guns are out to 11.5 kilometers. The 105s reload in 2.9 seconds, and the 150s reload in 6.4 seconds. The main battery guns, they now traverse in 24.0 seconds. I don't know why I was about to say 24.6 seconds for some reason. And her concealment is now down to 14.1 kilometers. Oh, shoot. I didn't even put the... No, I did put... Okay, that is with the flag, so I was about to freak out there for a second. And with the speed flag on, she is up to 34.1 knots. So pretty quick battleship here. Alright, guys. That's the build I used for all of tonight when I was recording the battles for this ship. So I'm going to go ahead, hop into a battle, and meet you guys there for my voiceover review of the Brandenburg. Alright, guys. VoiceOverMountbatten here. So the Brandenburg, how is she, and how does she compare to Odin? So, she gets compared to Odin so much because this is essentially, again, like I said at the beginning of the review, an Odin with another turret on it. So, does it play similar to Odin? Well, kind of. Here's the thing. Brandenburg is great when you can get all 12 of your guns firing on target. You're firing more shells at the target, so obviously you're going to be doing some more damage. And with 305mm guns, with the Odin, when you have to play at long range, which is what you have to do so much at high tier now, usually for the first at least half of the match, it's really aggravating when you have the dispersion that Odin and Brandenburg has, and you can only get 1 or 2 turrets on target. Now Odin, you can play a little cheekier and get that 3rd turret on target, and yeah, it helps out a bit. But with Brandenburg, with her improved side armor, you can bring that 4th turret into battle a lot more often, and that's when the Brandenburg really starts to really do well. Now, obviously, of course, too, pushing and it being in a situation where you get all 4 of your turrets on target, have your secondaries blazing going off, that's Brandenburg's ideal place. So, when you can get in that situation, it's great, it's fantastic. I managed to do that a couple of times tonight. However, I played this ship a lot. For the first half of the stream, we were just playing Brandenburg. And the matches we had just weren't conducive to that type of brawling. They were very rough. I had a lot of double up tier matches. Literally the first match I had in Brandenburg was a double up tier 10 game on Ocean. Can't have a worst map or situation for this ship. But you know what? She did really well. She did really well. Despite being in utterly crap situations, this ship performed. Now, the matches weren't, oh my god, I did 120,000 damage, 220,000 damage in the tier 10 game matches, but I was constantly coming in the upper half of the scoreboard. I didn't come lower than 5th place on the scoreboard when I was playing the Brandenburg. I only did that once. Every other match, I was in the top 3 in tier 10 games. Simply because you have more crap to throw at the target with the Brandenburg. So when you have to sit back, load HE, and just fire at higher tier ships, the Brandenburg comes out ahead there because the Odin only has 9 guns. Brandenburg has 12 with, I'm pretty sure, the same dispersion as Odin. I think the Sigma is a little lower than Odin, but the dispersion patterns feels very similar to Odin. So that's where the Brandenburg comes out on top. Now, of course, too, you can do that because you have that improved side plating. Odin doesn't really have that. But the back half of the Brandenburg is a lot chunkier. There's a lot more there, as you can see. Obviously, slapping a 4th turret onto a ship, you have to add some more ship to, well, the ship. Odin's superior there in terms of having less ship for the enemy to shoot at, and especially when kiting, because again, you have that 90mm strip that wraps around your stern. Brandenburg doesn't get that, so when you're kiting, if it's against something like a Musashi, a Yami, or Shikishima, you can get overmatched there quite easily. Now the secondaries. What are the secondaries like? So they're smaller and there's more of them. So against cruisers and destroyers, these things rip and tear like nobody's business when you can get to use them. Now do keep in mind too, this is of course a tier 8 ship. So having secondaries that can cross the 26mm threshold but not the 32mm threshold is definitely not the end of the world, because when you're top tier, there's plenty of ships you can see that these 105s can absolutely rip a new one. And when you run across a tier 8 battleship, you have so many of these 105s that they're going to be setting quite a few fires just through their sheer fire rate. And if you have Lucians on this ship and you pop his secondary skill, which unfortunately I only got to pop twice in Brandenburg on stream because, again, just the nature of the matches that I was being put in and the games I was getting, they really go to town. And I do believe the forward firing angles for the secondaries are pretty, I wouldn't say a lot better, but they're pretty much better than the Odins. The Odin, you can't really get too many of her guns on target when you're stuck bow in. Now, something else though is that the Brandenburg doesn't have the forward 150mm guns like the Odin does, unfortunately. So you don't have those. But again, she makes up for it with the amount of 105s that the Brandenburg does have. Torpedoes, again, anytime there's torpedoes on a battleship, that's your ace up the sleeve in the fight. However, they are German torpedoes, so don't expect them to last more than, well, 1 or 2 rounds of HE. They won't even last 1 round of HE if it's British HE that you do run across. But overall, the feel for this ship, she feels good if you know what you're doing. You can't just throw yourself at the enemy team, unfortunately, because she's too chunky. And, I mean, again, especially in today's meta with submarines being everywhere now, CV, oh god, I had a CV2 submarine game with the Brandenburg 1 round. It was tier 10 CV2 and 2 tier 10 subs. That was a round, let me tell you. You got to play conservatively, play it in the back, play it like a super cruiser. Your HE is going to be your primary armament for the first half of the match. Now, once you can close the distance and get within like 13 kilometers of the enemy team, load that AP. This is 12 305mm shells going at an enemy ship. These shells can slap the crap out of battleships once they get within about 13 kilometers. They can actually hit most of the time, especially when you aim for that upper belt. You can't get through the main battery belt of a lot of tier 10 BBs, except, maybe like a Conqueror or Thunder or something like that. But if you hit the upper belt with all 12 of these shells, which the ship can do once you get within that 13 kilometer range, oh yeah, you're going to be doing some damage, like 15, 20k salvos, because again, you have 12 shells now. They're small guns, but you've got a lot of them. And again, they reload every 25 seconds. Then once you got adrenaline rush kicking in, you're really, cooking with gas at that point with these main battery guns. So the ship can deliver. It's just unfortunate that higher tier gameplay isn't very conducive to the environment that this ship needs to really, really, really do well. But again, that being said, with the games that I had with her throughout the night, she performed well for what she was dealt with. I had 2 games where I broke 100,000 damage. The rest of the games, which I think we played like 6 or 7 games, they were around 80, 70,000 damage, which for a tier 8 ship with 305mm guns, double up tier to tier 10, that's really not bad for what it was dealt. And if you're interested in the matches, the Twitch stream is still up on Twitch, so you can go watch them there in full to see how the ship did perform. And again, it was admirable the way that she performed in the situation that she was put in. So, is this ship worth the dubs? I'd say if you're a German battleship player, if you like the Odin, you'll like this ship. You can also kind of see it as a higher tier super cruiser for the German line that's, just in the battleship slot, which is the way I see Odin and the way I play Odin, and again, like the way I suggest you play the Brandenburg. And if you play it like that, you'll do well in this ship. So overall, if you keep that in mind, this ship gets a thumbs up for me. And again, if you're a fan of German battleships, you know how to play in the current meta, you'll enjoy this ship quite a lot. So guys, that's my review of the new Tier 8 Premium German battleship, the Brandenburg. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 30,000 subs, just past 29,200 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you all have a wonderful day and wonderful weekend. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.